The ModernJeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, is another episode of the ModernJeeper Show with me, Mattson from Metal Cloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Rockstar Jeep girl, Jessi.
Hello.
Hey. So for being out like in Death Valley, and you're still out in that region, you guys look awfully like refreshed, you know, clean, showered.
Oh, the shower.
Yeah.
It does wonders.
Well, and you know that first trip, we had a couple of very interesting days of weather, and then the third night, for the first time ever, we had to spend our third night in a hotel, which was not a planned event, but because of the weather, the snow that we had, so we've been, hanging out in Lone Pine for a couple of days and getting a regular shower and a regular bed, and it's amazing what it'll do for your all of it.
We don't look homeless.
Right.
Yeah, we don't look homeless anymore.
I think that was probably a good plan. I remember we used to do the back-to-back. It was go, immediately come back, and transition that same day back out there. But doing the overnight, at least one overnight, helps out a lot and makes, it gives you that transition point. Yeah, it was kind of nice. It was fun. So for all of our listeners, the ModernJeeper adventures are always adventures, right? And we go with the flow, and Corey and Jessi did an incredible job of just putting together a trip that was limited by the access points that are available in Death Valley right now because of the floods. And our first day, I haven't been out there in forever. And so our first day, we saw some interesting places. Of course, went up by Rhyolite. We started out in Beatty. Then we went out to another little town that shall remain undisclosed, which was pretty awesome. And then we, and so you got to know, if you want to know, you got to know, you got to go you be on a ModernJeeper adventure one day, and you might too be able to see this cool little town, a bustling ghost town, if that makes sense. And then we went around, but it was windy. That there was a lot of wind going through, and and it's interesting when you have a wide variety of people, whether it's the rooftop tents or the ground tents, and how people handle that. That's the fun of overlanding, though. Our next night, we ended up at we went through, and there was, by the way, the guys, this was a lot of rock landing. This was definitely a rock landing adventure. This was not I'm bringing out my stock rig and I'm going to just go out and go camping a little bit. And I might, if I had a Toyota, I could do the same thing. No, this, where we went, some places we went, and the roads that Corey found to use, based on our restrictions and where we had to go, were just incredible. So there was definitely some places we had to rock crawl, definitely some places where just the consistent of 10 miles of torn up road and the big rocks and moving around and just trying to keep and as Corey kept saying, preserve your tires, look where you're putting your tires. It was incredible. It was definitely a different kind of Death Valley experience.
Oh yeah. And it's, it's kind of hard. And I explained to everybody at the very beginning that this was going to be that different, a different kind of trip than what we've done in the past. And while I love the variety, and I think everybody appreciates variety. We also, this was definitely off the beaten path, and because of the flooding in Death Valley, we were very limited. And then it's kind of interesting that we spent the time that we did beforehand to pre-run a couple of alternatives that I thought that we're never going to go. We're never going to go out on these other roads, but let's go see what's out there just to make sure. And then sure enough, we get to the other side of the park, and we literally had to abandon my plan A and plan B completely. So plan C involved, here we are, we're on these roads that we had pre-run, that we had no intentions of actually going on. And then that's where we ended up. And, we had some roads closing behind us because of snow. We got cold.
And you were saying snow is a rare thing. Snow is a very rare thing. And we got a lot of snow. There was a point in time, we'll share some photos, but there was a point in time where we were at the top, and there was a couple of inches on the ground.
Oh yeah, for sure. And as you saw when we came down out of the park for the last time, they were putting road closed signs up behind us. And yeah, that's kind of, for me as the planner guy, mentally, the late second day, I was kind of losing it a little bit, going, hey, I'm running out of options here. Which is the first time that's ever happened. And it's because we're trying to provide that adventure when I think everybody just loved it and we had a great time. And the way it turned out is the folks that did come out and stayed at a hotel, we actually came all the way back down to Lone Pine and then spent a day going out in the Alabama hills and then explored a mine up valley. And it was sunny. It was cold, but it was sunny. I think it worked out really, really well. But again, it is an adventure, and you never, when Del and I would go out, we never really had a route picked. It was always about, well, let's just see how the group does. And over the years, it's kind of, we've had to, I don't know, polish it a little bit more so that we had a planned area to eat and camp and that kind of stuff. Otherwise, you can be out wandering around the desert until 8 and 9 o'clock at night, looking for a place to camp, and that's not any fun for anybody. And people want to be able to set up their stuff
in the light.
In the light, yeah.
Which makes it also harder doing it in the fall because your light, you lose your light earlier. You want to get set in. People want to be set up, be able to have their dinner, go to bed a little bit early. Unless you're going to hang out in the hot spring or warm spring. Let's be clear. It's a warm spring. It's not a hot spring. It's a warm spring.
That's right.
It was kind of warm.
And what's funny about it is when we came out here and pre-ran, the last day, because we had already camped for 5 days, and that last time was freaking cold, and I was not having it. And he was like, "You're just going to have to suck it up." Anyway, he was adamant on running this other loop, and I was just over it. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll indulge you. And so we went, and we did it for a reason.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason.
It happened for a reason that we checked out some other stuff, and we ended up having to use it because of the weather. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there for sure.
It's funny. You almost create your own. Do you create your own destiny? Is that why that kind of stuff happens? Or, it was a place that I wanted to go look at because I'd seen it on just the maps and I'd read a little bit about it. But then when we got out there, it was like, okay, like we won't probably come back out here again. Oh, until
it turns out
in the next 3 days, we'll be right back out there. But yeah, it's, this next group we have coming in, it's a little bit bigger group, and I've adjusted our plan because we do still have snow. I mean, the Sierras along here, Mount Whitney and whatnot, are covered with snow. And the other side of Owens Valley is also got a dusting of snow, and it's kind of melted off, but it's not warm up there. So we're going to adjust again, and it's going to be a really amazing trip even back through the park. So yeah, being flexible has everything to do with, it's part of being a modern Jeeper, right? I mean, it's part of
overlanding. That's
part of overlanding. Right. You go and explore. I was thinking about the little van we saw out there, the little French couple that was, of course they didn't have a clock. They didn't have any kind of a calendar to keep, they didn't have anywhere to be, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
And so when you have those kind of options, it's a little bit different too. If you're just out wandering around in the desert and you have nowhere to be, well, it doesn't matter if you stop at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because the weather's bad. Whereas, we kind of had a schedule to keep and places to go and lots of stuff to show folks. So yeah, I mean, what an adventure. And, shout out to all of our participants were super troopers and good group of people again, as always.
Yeah, there was an awesome group. It was interesting though, because just going up through in the different weather and the snow, it made Death Valley even that more unique. right? I mean, I was absolutely thrilled, going up there and driving through the snow in the middle of Death. It's just not what you expect. And it just says a lot about Death Valley and about the experience when you're going. And the areas we were going in Death Valley were totally unique and new, right? It's very easy to go down Panamint, all the little places that everybody goes. We didn't go to the crater. We didn't do racetrack. We didn't do any of that this time, right? But that was fine because there was so much more. Now, I'm sure some people will come out and they want to see the classic places, they want to see Kettle Pot Junction, whatever. They want to see all this. And those are set times, the classic locations, but with the restrictions you had and what you did and some of the mines we saw and some of the stuff that was just like so old and that house, what was a big round house that you,
hard luck.
Hard luck. Yeah. I mean, just there's such unique stuff out there. The bat tree. Sure. I mean, it's like next time we have to bring something for the bat tree. I think we have to. Yeah, there you go. We have to bring our own gold zinc, something that we can strap onto the bat tree.
I think you were just thrilled to just not have the truck and trailer behind you anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for all of our listeners, had a couple little troubles on the way in. About 38 miles from Beatty, I blew out a tire. Okay, fine. You get a flat on a trailer. It happens to a lot of people. You go do that. Well, this tire happened to blow out enough and have enough of an impact that it wrapped itself around the axle. And that was many, many, many hours to get that fixed properly.
Yeah. So what turns out is something fairly simple, and we've all changed trailer tires. All of the sudden, you need a cutoff wheel, some kind of a saw. I mean, you have steel belts wrapped around the hub. I mean, it really becomes kind of an issue.
It became a combination of pure muscle and a winch that ripped it all apart. And then ultimately the whole hub had to come off anyway. And it was just, but that is just one of those things, right?
Yeah, you were a trooper, and I got to say, with your son.
No, you were a trooper for staying awake till 1 or 2 a.m. when I finally made it in.
Well, we just wanted to make sure you got there, and the fact that you had your son with you, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and you'd been driving all day long. What an adventure.
Well, Jack did great. I think he did great on the whole trip. He actually, I was fairly impressed with how he did, being that he was the only 5-year-old there in a trip that usually doesn't have kids on, right? And we do say it's recommended. It's not a requirement on Death Valley trip. It's recommended 12 years or older. But I think he did really well. And the only time that he might have bothered people was when we were in we were trying to relax in the warm spring tub, and for him it was a mini swimming pool. But I think out of that, he did really good. He was trying to be helpful to others and really tried to participate and be a part of it. And that was a proud papa moment.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, getting the trailer tire. And then of course, having another trailer tire blow out on the way out of town.
And then at this point, not even having a spare because you had used your spare on the way in.
Yeah, of course, it's going to happen once. You don't need to buy another spare. That's fine. I just pulled the truck. That one happened, and I have to say, so my immediate reaction, I'm like, I'm pissed off, right? I just pulled over. I go to make a phone call. I don't have a signal, so I'm in the middle of no place. I'm 20 miles north of Tonopah. There's no signal. Who am I going to call? This sucks. I'm having a reaction. I'm getting emotional, and then I went, oh, duh. All right. So I went out there, pulled the Jeep off the trailer because I had the Jeep on the trailer. We loaded into that. Drove 20 miles back to Tonopah, bought 2 new tires on rims, right? Because might as well. Bought a floor jack because I destroyed the bottle jack the last time. Remember, you're gonna have to get yourself a new bottle jack for that,
right?
For the Ram. So I bought a floor jack. I bought a tire iron because I had been using a socket and a wrench, last time, and that's it. I'm like, I'm not even going to screw around here. I'm just buying the stuff that we need. So $700 later, I've got all the tires and stuff, and I got to go back. And then I go back to change the tire. I have the trailer sitting on the ground, and it's on that hard packed dirt that's on the side of the road, the shoulder, right? And I go to start wrenching. I'm going to wrench on those. I'm wrenching on that. I'm going, and I'm turning the tire in the dirt. Because the truck wasn't on the trailer anymore, it didn't have any weight on it. It was too light. The tire's spinning around in the dirt. So I had to stick my foot into one of the little slots that was open, put my knee against it, leaning against that to hold it in place while Jack's helping me on some of the leverage, and I'm pulling it to break loose all the nuts. It was fun. So, it's that constant thing of, why can't this be easy?
You're
why
right.
Can't this be easy? But that was fun. All fun. And that cost about a 2.5 hour delay. And then we made it over. So we drove back. And of course, I'd mentioned earlier, get to the 89 because I was trying to check on the weather. And
Right.
I have to say, guys, driving a truck and a trailer in the snow, not something I'm experienced with, right? Not something I've gone up 80 when it was weather. It was just middle of the day and they were clearing the ice. It was different. But at night, when it's 23 degrees and I'm looking at the thing, it's 23 degrees outside. Okay. And I'm going over ice and snow with a 6% grade over 6 miles going down into Myers. It was a little tense. There was this little tense moments of, okay. And knowing that the brakes on the trailer weren't exactly working right either. I was just kind of like, okay.
Right.
Okay. Go, Sokka. Breathe.
Now you understand what we have to go through when we have to go to the East Coast when it's snowing.
Yeah. With a CTI trailer, which weighs, 10 times what that thing does.
Right. And it's never usually an issue once we get, to one end or the other, but it's getting out of Colorado in the wintertime that's always an issue. And, this trip, it showed us how quickly things can change. Literally one of those roads we were on, we came out and it was snowing a little bit, but it wasn't a big deal. And it wasn't an hour and a half later, and we had 1.5 inches of snow on the ground real quick in Death Valley. And it is rare. And it was, for me, it was a relief that everybody was like, this is awesome. And everybody was loving it because I was going, no, what are we going to do?
Well, you one of the keys about running an event is never let the see you sweat.
That's
just
right.
Do it and modify and go. And the difference between a great event planner and an average event planner is someone who can make changes and fix problems on the go, and just everybody goes, oh, this is the way it was supposed to be. Cool.
Yeah, this is totally fine. This is awesome.
So I missed. The funny thing was I was on the radio and my kid, because he was sitting in the passenger seat, every once in a while his feet would hit the rugged radio, and it was very easy to change the setting. So as we were heading down on the big road and you got to the T, and one side was going to go up into the camping area up where up where the dunes were, and the other side was heading back into town. Like, I'm following you guys and I didn't hear any conversation. I'm like, oh, radio's not on. I'm 17 and then you're talking. So there was a conversation you had with everybody as to what the plan was going to be and what they were. And I missed all that. Like, I missed the discussion and the decision point as to going back to next thing I'm following, like, oh, okay, I guess we're back to Lone Pine, we're back to Big Pine. It was funny. But every once in a while that would happen. Like, hey, Corey's been on awful radio silence for a while. Then I noticed now that my kid his foot turned that dial. There needs to be a way to lock that. Rugged radios, there needs to be a way to lock it so you can't change it out of a station.
And it was kind of funny because there would be a couple of times where I'd go, so Mattson, when you come back down, at the end of your journey, when you go back, this is where you'll turn and stuff. And there was no response. And I thought, okay, well, he's probably he's talking to Jack or something. And I would just move on, not realizing that.
I didn't hear nothing. Now it was funny, but that's my other little story heading out is Corey's like, okay, no problem. Big Pine, you head out. So I go, he had mentioned that a road had been closed. So we came off of this one road. And I forget what the one was that had all the snow in. I don't remember what the number of that road was, but
and it's kind of just known as Eureka Valley, but
the Eureka Valley. So we come off of that. And as we're coming off, there's road closed signs being set up and a guy's there and side on the truck, and we leave. I come back, and that was on the 168. And I come back on the 168, and now the 168 is closed, and that road, the Eureka Valley, is open. So I'm a little confused. Like, why would that be? Now, my GPS sends me that direction. Like, I'm just going up there fine. And then I finally realized all it was doing was sending, because I get up into the snow level, and all I realized it was going to do was send me over to a trail off of the road to do a U-turn. Like, well, that was stupid. So I turn around and I head back down, and that's 10 minutes into the road. As I'm heading down, I pass and I tried to stop them, but they just put on their brakes and kept going. was an Audi SUV. Right now, Audi SUV, they're all-wheel drive, it's fine, but Audi SUV with some stuff on top of it. Now, in order to get out that way, like that was a lot of dirt roads and stuff you have to go. So I think they just turned because the other road was closed and thought, well, let's just see where this goes. And of course, maybe their Google Maps was doing the same thing and telling them to turn around. They didn't stop. I hope that, God bless and God willing, they were okay. But there wasn't any, oh, we're going to go over this pass and then end up someplace else and then, and be able to easily get out. I mean, you got into the valley there and you had a lot of dirt roads ahead of you. So I'm hoping they were okay and made it out. And then I tried to go up the closed road because that's the road that took me up and over and get me back to Beatty. And I run into CHP. Young guy, he doesn't even know where Beatty's at. He's like, I don't know. I'm new to this area. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, obviously I can get around anything. I just seen a Subaru come down the hill and I talked to them and they're like, oh yeah, you can get around that easily. I'm like, so I can just get around all this really? No, sorry. You can't let you go up there. There's Caltrans workers trying to help the truckers that basically parked themselves on the side of the road and jacked a little bit because it was snowing up there and they didn't know how to drive properly. And, but we got Caltrans workers up there, so we don't really want anybody up there. And if it doesn't work out, we're gonna have to bring in the big rigs to try to move out the big rigs. Like, all right, fine. So how do I get over to Beatty? Where's that? Okay, how do I get to the 95? Well, you can go to the 6. Well, I'd heard from somebody that there was a problem on the 6. And he called dispatch and said, no, it's open. Okay, fine. So I'm already predisposed to the idea that there's something wrong on the 6. So I go up to Bishop, cut over, go to the 6, and I'm heading up. It's fine. It starts getting foggier and foggier. A highway patrol passes me by, and he at one point flashes his lights and just leans on a siren. And the reason he did that is up ahead, I could see there's flashing red lights, like slow down. There's traffic up ahead. Okay, so I slow down and I get to there and I pull up behind a semi truck. There's lights flashing. Now, I happen to notice that there's other vehicles coming in the opposite direction. So I make this assumption that all these semi-trucks that are lined up here are lined up with the idea that they're waiting for their turn to go, right? I figured it was one of these things, right? That there's guiding. I just saw CHP go by or Highway Patrol go by. This is obviously being regulated. There's going to be a flow going. So Jack and I sit there 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. GPS actually shows the delay go from 30 minutes down to 13 minutes. It changes. I'm, oh, cool. So it's 13. Well, that's cool. It means that something's happening. I asked the truckers going by, and the truckers are like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the guy just, he didn't want to speak English to me or whatever. He just said he didn't know. He didn't. That's fine. Okay. So I know what's going on. And then as we're sitting there, and I get out, finally I get out, I'm going to walk around and see what's going on because it doesn't make sense. I keep seeing vehicles come this way and nothing going that way. Like, all right, so I get out, walk out, and just as I get out, I notice a truck is moving on, and all the other truckers are hopping in. Like, oh, cool, it's moving. So I get back in, waiting another 5 minutes, nothing happens. And then I hear the power of a semi-truck powering up, going up, and it comes up, passing us up the hill in the right-hand lane, like in the opposite direction lane, right? There, it heads up, and it just keeps going like, what the hell is going on here? So I said, fine. I went out and I just drove it. Mm-hmm. Turns out, as I get up there, I pass about 10 rigs and there's nobody ahead of them. Like one rig at some point had decided to stop, probably to check chains or something like that. The next one stopped behind him. There were 2 or 3 cars in the line, stopped. There were others, trucks stopped. They were just all stopped.
Right in the middle of the road.
Waiting to go, thinking that this was a line to go. So that one trucker stopped in the road, blocking everybody else. There's a huge line behind me of trucks, and they were all just sitting there waiting for their opportunity to go because one guy decided he was going to stop and not pull over to the side or go to a better location to check his chains. And so I pull around that. Well, it happened again as I got closer to the top of the hill, over to the summit. There was another line of trucks all doing their chains and stuff right in the middle of the road. That one, I went around and onto the shoulder and, 4-wheel drive, whatever, in the snow that was there and went around them. But I did that the rest of the way up the summit, going around trucks. There was an accident at one point at the very top that was blocking the left-hand lane, went around that one, stuff all the way down the summit to the other side, just because there were these blocks of trucks just sitting there blocking traffic, stopping anybody from actually being able to go. So it was like it was 30 minutes of waiting, but it was one of those crazy moments. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we're all just sitting here going, okay.
Yeah, what is going on? And the fact that
in my mind, I kept saying, like, hey, I should probably just go around these guys. Like, it's like from, I think 5 minutes into it, I was telling myself that. My instinct was, yeah, I should probably just go around. Hell, I can just go on the shoulder here and just kind of go up this way. I don't need to go. I'm like, I'm just going to, at least I can work my way forward and be like closer to the front of the line, right? No reason.
No, because you don't want to be that guy. Because then
exactly.
Look at this guy. Where does he think he's going? How often do we say that on the road? And then
exactly, it's like you don't be. I didn't want to be that jerk that was like bypassing everybody and not waiting my turn. It's like, so I try to follow the rules, and this. Thankfully for that one trucker who was that guy who just decided we're not just being an ass. He went at it changed my mind and decided to follow him up. But yeah, it was insane.
Well, I mean, it's again, driving the last few days, it seems, and it's everywhere. I see that Florida's got some hurricane thing going on coming into the middle of Florida. And
we got wind gusts.
We've got wind gusts, and we've got snow going across the country, and it's that time of year. I mean, it is it's not winter yet, but it is definitely fall.
Right.
And all this rain and snow in the West, we need it so badly.
Right.
And hopefully, I don't know, we were thinking about, as we came out of Death Valley, about all the flooding issues, and here we are driving through some rain and some snow, and we're thinking to ourselves, oh, if it gets warm again. And you saw, even as we were coming out of the park, the amount of water. It didn't rain on us that hard, yet there was 2 inches of water flowing in some of these little creeks and canals down the side of the pass.
Well, the amount of sediment runoff that you kept pointing out on the fans, right? Just it was the landscape. It's amazing when it rains like it did earlier this year. It does truly change the landscape. I mean, it makes the area completely different.
Yeah, people were one of the areas around the sand dunes. People were talking about the huge silt beds and stuff, but with all the rain, it had basically reformed and compacted, not dried out, but turned those silt beds into just pockets of dirt. And eventually it'll dry out again, and it'll get torn up, and it'll be back to silt beds. But you saw we were driving through those areas, and there's not an issue at all, because it was all hardened by the water. So I did see where they did just reopen Town Pass. I'm sorry, Daylight Pass, not Town Pass, Daylight Pass into Beatty. So you can get into the park, but then you kind of have to do a funny little jog. You have to go around the main road of 190, because that's still under construction. So again, slowly but surely, Caltrans is doing what they can. And we did see a number of tractors and graders and stuff out on the roads. So that's healthy.
Well, it was pretty impressive how much of those roads had been graded, and how much, especially you said that some of that was happened just between your pre-running and
it changed so fast. And it's amazing to me. Yeah. Like, it doesn't take a whole lot. So then all of a sudden you get a couple of inches of rain. Wow. And it really I bet while we were driving out there, we maybe have got, I don't know if they would even call that 1/10 of an inch, and we had water flowing down some of the canals. So yeah, it's all an adventure in Death Valley. That's why we love going out there, because it's always different.
Well, it's always a modern Jeeper adventure. And that's the cool thing. And there was a lot of guys out there. I remember going through, and we passed that group of Toyotas, nice enough guys, and they let us by. But there were places where they had to really stop to try to go through, because it just wasn't, the terrain was not friendly to a rig like that compared to what we are all set up. And thankfully, our group was all pretty set up. I mean, everybody had. It was a small group, but everybody had a built rig, and everybody had experience too. I think everybody pretty much knew how to handle it.
Well, and it's cool. We went to breakfast a little while ago down here in Lone Pine, and And the guy sitting at the table, he comes over, they come in and sit down next to us, and he looked over and he said, "Hey, is that your Gladiator out there?" And we get to talking, and he's got a JK, and it's all metal cloaked out, and he's like, "So where are you guys headed?" And this was a guy who just happened to be, he's just passing through.
Oh, wow.
And but it's always amazing to me that I feel like we have friends. You don't have to know somebody personally, but you can become friends in a matter of a minute when you share that same kind of camaraderie, the same kind of passion for something. And he ended up talking about, oh yeah, he lived down in Lake Havasu for a while, and so we kind of he had done some JJUSA events, and we knew a lot of the same people. And this is just some random guy and his wife, driving through town.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun. It's kind of like that. It makes you feel like you're home, even if you're hundreds of miles from your real home.
Well, it is that connection point, right? That's why the Jeep community is so strong, right? We do have this connection, especially when somebody who has a built rig, and it doesn't matter that, it's cool that it was all metal cloaked out, but just somebody who has a built rig who is going to use it and knows how to use it and appreciates what he's trying to do and be a part of that group. That's pretty cool. That's the beauty of the modern Jeeper, right?
That's right. That's right. And it's nice to know that wherever we go, there's always our family out there, and that's pretty special. These guys, now we've had a number of our trips. We have a lot of the same folks that sign up, repeat adventurers, I guess. Sure. And it's comfortable for them. They kind of have found their family, and we always have a handful, 4 or 5 new rigs with us, and it turns out that then they join that family, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's pretty cool.
Well, the beauty of a modern Jeeper adventure, I've always said, is the people. It's not what we do. What we do is just provide guidance, but it's the people that are there that make it great.
For sure.
And you have a single asshat amongst the crowd, and all of a sudden it's just not a great trip. And we've been pretty fortunate, knock on wood.
We've only had to leave a couple of those guys out in Death Valley.
Yeah, that's occasional. They can get out. They got GPS.
Yeah, that's right. Point in the right direction.
Yeah, go this way. Yeah, right. Well, that's up a hill. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
We're still a little bit playing catch up. We have had service here in Lone Pine is kind of sketchy, but we're still processing stuff from SEMA. We're still processing stuff from the last probably 2 months. So for our and this podcast will be a little bit delayed. You guys are probably hearing it maybe a day or two after when we typically get them released. But Mattson is with us out here, and so we have to have somebody back in to hold the structure together. Otherwise, we all just run off the tracks, and it's just mass chaos and cats and
dogs
living together.
Yeah, exactly. Pigs are flying. By the way, Jesse, show off your new art. You can see it there.
There you go.
Yeah. There you go. So that was briefly, because obviously we're going to talk about that in the last episode. So that was the fundraiser for the Jessi Combs Foundation, right?
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, it's nice to show up because we get to see all of our close friends again, and we get to talk about Jessi and what's going on with everything. And so it's always nice family gathering, so to speak. And they last year brought out Jessi's tattoo artist from California to set up at the Harley Davidson shop, where we all meet and have a good time and talk and donate money to the foundation so they can give scholarships out to these young women that are trying to come up in the industry. So this year she had some new flash. He didn't get to last year because the list was a mile long, and I barely got mine last year. But we got there early, and we signed up early, and we both got a tattoo again. And it was nice seeing Candace again, and she brought a friend to help with the tattoos because everybody signs up, and she only has 4 hours to start just pumping them out.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they sold. I think they Adele was telling me that. And for our listeners, Adele had worked with Warren for many, many years, and she was always our point of contact with Warren Industries. And Adele has retired from Warren, but is now part of the Jessi Combs Foundation and is working to help the foundation.
Cool.
And so it was cool to get to see Adele and spend some time with her. And she was saying that I think they had 300 tickets available, and I'll bet there was a couple hundred people there. So even if you bought a ticket, it was still part of the fundraiser and whatnot. But then they had T-shirts available, and Warren actually paid to have a bunch of T-shirts made. And if you bought a T-shirt, then 100% of the proceeds for those went towards the foundation. Nice. They had food trucks there, and yeah, it was like Jessi said, it was great to spend a little bit of time with the folks that knew her. And they have a big video in there playing with clips of her, and of course she was. Every time she'd go to Vegas, she'd stop by that dealership and browse around, and yeah, really cool. It's funny. Somebody had mentioned to me that it's not like she ever left. That she's still she's with us all, and going to an event like that and going to SEMA, it's really hard for me to walk around and go,
where's she at?
Where's she at? I wonder what booth she's in. She's signing a poster for somebody somewhere. I just know it. And it's an interesting thing. It's not like she's gone. It's just that we just didn't run into her at this particular event. That's all it is.
That's interesting. So, she's up there signing posters for God. There you go, buddy.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
There you go.
Yep.
That was cool. That's cool. So and you got one too, right?
I did. Yeah. She had a part of when Jessi said that they're flash. So the tattoo artists and some of Jessi's tattoos are on a flash board. It's basically a little square that has renditions of all of the tattoos that they can do in a short amount of time. So she had 2 flags, and one of the flags is a checkered flag, and the other one is her red bandana with polka dots on it.
Right.
So I had them do the checkered flag and her red flag, and then in the poles of the flag, I had them put her speed when she set the record, which was 5:22.783.
Wow. Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. That's one of these days, hopefully I can make it out and actually be a part of that. That'd be fun to go to that. And just incredible
everybody
people.
Is there. Everybody.
Yeah. Incredible people. Right. And was there a lot of talk about the documentary?
Oh yeah. And there were still some folks there that had not seen it. That are still, hesitant. You got to be ready for some of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not easy to see it. Even if you weren't as close, you'd still not easy to see. Like, oh gosh, wow, this is the moment, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's also good. It helps people with a little closure too.
Oh, for sure.
Helps the closure of what happened, and it wasn't her fault, and it was just the moment, time.
She was doing what she loved. Yep. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's what it was about, and it's no different for all of us. Whether we're sitting at a desk at our jobs, and if we're enjoying things. And this is our path that we've chosen, and this is the way we want to do, and this is what our day entails. Who's to say we're not all doing what we enjoy? We all have the ability to make a decision and change it if we're not enjoying ourselves right now. And I think that's where we are even as a country. I think that people are realizing with the COVID thing that we had go through us all, that our freedoms can be taken away at a moment's notice. And so I think that's why you see so many people that are out and they're doing things. They're living on the road. They're traveling, whatever it is. They're not going to work. They're trying to work from home, whatever their situation is. I think that people have realized that they've got to take advantage of every day because life is too short. And so part of what we see through our adventures at Jeep events, the whole off-roading community, are people sharing their passion and living the best life that they can. And even if they're not totally 100% sure if this is what they want to do, they're making progress towards what it is they do want to do. So I think that's important.
That is important. That is important. It's important to do that. It's also important to make sure your priorities are correct, not only for yourself, but for those around you, right? I think there is too much of the extreme where it's all about me and I'm happy and it doesn't matter anybody else. I'm doing what I want to do. And I think that's a challenge to a community and to society. And but if you can balance that with also we're part of it. I'm going to do things for myself. I'm going to do things for my family. I'm going to do things for those around me. I'm going to do things for mankind in general. I'm going to do things, there's layers that we can exist and make sure that we're still being well-rounded and part of a community and not just self-serving.
Oh, absolutely. I was just, you said a particular word, and I think that would be an awesome word for this week's keyword, code word, our word of the week.
This is week 4. Episode. Okay. What were you thinking?
I was thinking of the word balance.
Balance. Okay. My default was going to be snow, but I think balance is better. Balance. So just to be clear, guys, it is balance. It's
balance.
It's balance. All right. So, because we get these questions like, well, what was your word? You kind of talk. It's balance. So be balanced.
I think that is something that is very rare, and we all try and we strive for it. And I don't know if some of us maybe get to it, but I think it's always a work in progress. Like it's something you have to do as you go forward. You can't just go, yep, got that whole balance thing fixed. And
I conquered balance. I conquered balance. That's it. Yep. I conquered it. I won. I beat balance. Now what am I going to do? I don't know. I beat balance. I'm going to go figure out something else to do with my life. And it's time to retire from balance.
Yeah, it's like your car tires. You have to do that every so often. You can't just do
trailer
it
tires. Trailer tires.
Trailer tires, all that stuff.
It's all that thing. That's okay. We have a new official policy at Medical. If we replace one trailer tire, we replace them all at the same time. No, none of this mismatched trailer tires and mismatched sets, and it's just dumb.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, it's part of what the reason we've been so successful with the CTI trailer has been our supporters and Milestar tires and those Steel Pro tires on that rig, along with the Raceline wheels. I mean, it's a big tire, and not all trailers can fit a 16-inch wheel on it just because clearance issues. But those Steel Pros being a 14-ply tire, those things are about bulletproof. I mean, each tire is rated at about 4,400 pounds, which that's more than the wheel is rated for. So the tires can actually support more than the wheel. That's why we don't put 110 PSI in them, because we'll bust the wheel. The tire is such a heavy tire. But it also is it's that mental thing when I'm driving down the road. I don't have to go, hope we don't lose another tire. Now, everybody that has followed us, there was a situation a year or so ago that I wasn't losing tires. I was losing the entire wheel and the tire. So that's a different thing.
That was different. That was different.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this is another little quick episode here, guys, but we wanted to get a chance to catch up. I'm obviously back at the offices because I arrived in this morning, while Corey and Jesse are about to head out for part 2 of the Modern Jeeper Ventures Death Valley Fall 2022, which hopefully is a much more, less weather restricted. Let's just say that.
That'd be good. We'd like a little bit more warmer air. That would be okay.
Yeah, less wind at night. Would be nice.
Less wind at night would be good. Yeah.
Although it's kind of funny because when it was windy at Warm Springs, it wasn't cold, right?
Right. Yeah. We had a breeze the night before, and it was a much colder breeze. But yeah, at Warm Springs, the wind wasn't horrible. It wasn't like you couldn't be outside. We just had some wind, and it blew in. It was the front of that storm. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was great, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me come along and all your help and letting us bring Jack along because he just enjoyed it. And of course, Josh he asked me very specifically. He said, "Next time, can 2 people go?" Because he was acting up this week because he didn't get to go. almost got suspended. So I'm very proud to say my first grader almost got suspended from school.
Wow.
Yeah. It happens when you hit another kid in the stomach. So, I have to say, what can you say? It's first grade. Like, let him get it out early.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He has to learn from that now, because later that'll be bad.
That'd be bad. Yeah. First grader suspended from school. That's just funny. But no, the flip side, the rules are they can't touch kids. Like, so he goes and climbs things that he's not supposed to be climbing, but they're not allowed to touch them. They're not allowed to go and take them physically, or if he's running around the yard and doesn't want to go back into his classroom, they're not allowed to physically touch them. They have to coerce him via words. I'm sorry, if you're a first grader and you learned those rules, like, oh my God, your world's your oyster. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to climb this fence. I'm going to go up there.
You can't touch me. I'm out of here.
Yeah. You can't touch me. I'm going to go play. What are you going to do? Go scold me? Right. All right, Modern Jeepers. Hey, thank you for joining us for another great episode. You guys, this was week four of our giveaway. This is week 4. So remember, week 5 next week, and then the following week, we have a following week. Yeah, following week is gosh, that's Thanksgiving week. Craziness. Yeah. And that's when we actually will do the announcement of who the winner is. And then what that all means and what you're actually going to be winning. By the way, since you guys will be listening to this on Friday, I will give a reminder right now, not only us, and I'm sure of a lot of others, but you're going to be listening to this on Veterans Day. So this is November 11th, Veterans Day, which means Metal Cloak, of course, has a veterans sale going on all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm sure a lot of other great sponsors and supporters do as well, so make sure to take advantage of it. One thing about Metal Cloak's Veterans Day sales, we give a portion of all proceeds and all sales goes to 4 Wheel to Heal. Our friends over at 4 Wheel to Heal, it's a great organization. They do off-road therapy. And it really is. They don't take any money in for themselves. They don't do anything other than the fact that they go and put on these great events and sponsor and help Jeepers who have lost limbs to go out and actually experience what off-road is. And turn them into Jeepers, I should say, because they've done a great job of doing that over the years. Some of the most amazing people I've met over the years, whether it was King of the Hammers, whatever, were veterans who had lost limbs and were working with 4 Wheel to Heal. Incredibly inspirational people. So we give a proportion of all proceeds. Also, if you're a veteran and you want to purchase, you do an extra 5% off by using the code USA Hero, and they give you an extra 5% off on top of the sale. Just one more way that we do what we can to support all the veterans out there. Thanks again for all of you who served and have served. And I really just leave it with the thank a vet, right? If you whether you've served, you have served, or you're part of a family who supports somebody to serve, or you want to serve, or you're just somebody who appreciates others who have served, thank a vet. On Veterans Day and this weekend, just say thank you to somebody. And you should do it every time you can. But our veterans, we are here, and our freedoms are here because of our veterans and those that are out there done every day and serve for our country. So my hat's off to all of you. Thank you again, all Modern Jeepers. And Corey, anything else to add before we wrap up?
No, very well said, my friend. And thanks to all those that the veterans, all of our followers, our off-road family, everybody. It truly does make a difference in lots of people's lives. So,
amen. All right. Well, for all the Modern Jeepers out there, we'll see you on the trails.
Cheers.
See ya.